Right. There. Um, yeah, welcome everybody. Surprised we got Alright, see. Yeah, so can you see the chat okay over here on your screen?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Perfect.
So, I'm gonna test it and make sure it actually works. Test. Boom. Does it pop up right here? It does.
Well, I can't read that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it bigger. So yeah, this is like a test stream, and then we're also doing our first podcast tonight. This will obviously be turned into a video. So for those of you who are watching, what did you guys all do today or find interesting lately? We are.
It says in the chat. What your headphones say we sound like.
You went to school? That's cool. Oh, I think I know why. This should get rid of the echo. Is it echoing anymore? It should get rid of the echo. Because it was hearing me, and then it was saying twice. So, no more echo.
Echoes.
Sweet.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, obviously, for anyone from the Craftsies audience, if you guys are good at, like, overlays or anything with OBS, like making these boxes or want to help us with thumbnails, we could really use that because I don't know what I'm doing. But, yeah. So, to start, you want to...
So this is the Generation Yap, hosted by yours truly, Charlie Puffer. I am a retired Air Force Senior Master Sergeant and currently own a vegetable farm in Iowa, where we grow herbicide and pesticide-free vegetables. That's how Alan and I met. He, through a mutual friend, he was looking for a job, and I hired him on the farm, and that was 3 years ago. And then it was about a year ago. You kind of moved on to different things, and but we've been friends ever since. He helped me actually find a church, which has had a huge impact on my life. But the podcast is just about life in general and how we deal with issues and deal with issues effectively. As a former first sergeant in the United States military, I was charged with the welfare and the welfare of my troops and
Trooper?
helping people deal with issues. And it's always been my passion. I just have always liked to help people. And Alan and I were talking, and we thought, hey, what a great way to reach out to the folks out in the internet who may be dealing with issues, and hopefully get them pointed on the right path, or give them a perspective that helps them, that is beneficial in their life. I've got a few sayings. If you watch the intro, right thinking leads to right emotions. Well, right thinking starts with the Bible, as far as I'm concerned. And when we're in the Word and we're reading the Word and understanding the Word, it offers us a perspective on how to deal with stuff in life. So
I just realized I forgot to hit record. So
we're not recording.
Yeah, I'll start recording. But that'll be good though. I mean, we're just streaming. All right, this is the Generation Yap with Alan Johnson and Charlie Puffer. I'm an 18-year-old farm kid who met him working from age 15 to 17, and he became a mentor, friend, and obviously my boss for a while. And then God has used us to help each other out a lot. God used me to help him find a church, but then the last year and a half, he's helped guide me as I try to become a man of God and an adult. So I really respect him, former military guy, Army, but worked with the Air Force a lot as well.
Air Force, worked with the Army a lot.
Yep. So Yeah, and we came with the name the Generation Yap because Air Force. Yep. See, I have memory issues, right? We all have flaws. So, um, we obviously go back a while because I worked for him for 2.5 or 3 years, and we live stream this. Obviously, our chat doesn't look that glorious right now, but we'll get better as we go. So shout out to the people from my Discord server on my old gaming channel who sat in, all 5 of you. And so tonight we're going to talk about kind of how we met each other and how we whatever. So I think I should start with a story of how I backed into your Ranger. You want to tell that one? So I came out there to interview, and hey, Nvidia, and welcome to the stream. Okay, we can read that now. I increased the settings. That's good.
Nice.
So I went out there and I drove out there in my little Ford Taurus. I didn't know this guy from Adam, but I was like, ooh, farm job, working on a produce farm. I was like really into growing plants at the time, and he had several greenhouses. I pulled up there and yeah, I was like, yeah, but he was all smiles, whatever. But so he showed me around the farm for a few hours. We were getting along, and then I back out in his Ranger. I just like back straight into it with my car, like right after the interview. Worst impression I could have made, right?
Pushed her about 2 feet.
Yep. Somehow didn't scratch my car or it by God's grace, but it was it was really funny. So,
and that was about 2 minutes after I said you're hired.
Yeah. So don't do that when you go to a job interview. But yeah. So not a great first impression, but it was great. But then over that summer, oh, my mic is redlining a little bit. I better turn that down. There we go. So after that, I didn't really know how to work that well. I didn't really know much. I knew like some stuff, how to drive some stuff or how to use some power tools, but he really taught me some woodworking, some just how to work hard with my hands, doing hay over the summers, which was a lot of fun. Working with his stepdad, Mr. Roski, and stuff. So, what was like the first summer working with me like? You want to tell some stories?
Well, funny thing was, I as we were talking as we're working, because if you have to weed a 400-foot row of beans, you have to weed a 400-foot row of beans, and some of that stuff is we can go in with a cultivator, and when I mean beans, I'm talking green beans, not soybeans. And so you can go in with a cultivator and get majority of the weeds in between the rows, but you always got to do the hand weeding right in amongst the plants. And so we would have our conversations, and he would always ask me to tell Air Force stories. And so we would talk about, he would just the one thing I loved about Alan is, one, he was very inquisitive, and the second thing was he would ask me questions in such a way that you're like, wow, I'd never really thought about it that way. And so then that got me thinking more and more, and what was your worst day, that kind of stuff. And I've had some bad days. I did 2 tours in Iraq. I did my part. A lot of people did a lot more and gave a lot more. But life experiences, they can be pretty traumatizing. So we would talk about, different situations that came up, because Alan was always quizzing me on, hey, what kind of issues did you deal with in the military? And, and we would get into conversations. And as the relationship grew, we found that I found that it kind of changed my way of thinking. A lot of my thinking was, I did this, but, the more I talked about it, the more ashamed I was to talk about it, because I was sitting there going, well, let's really think who gave me this opportunity or put me in that position. And my opinion is it was God. So it wasn't me. God gave me the opportunity to glorify his kingdom. And I was able to help a lot of people. I've dealt with serious issues. I've dealt with folks, suicide deaths, sexual assault, So there's all kinds of things that I've dealt with and have helped people through, because the military is a cross section of society, and unfortunately, there are some bad people that do get through the military, get through the process. So that really, it was just really beneficial. And the one thing I found is, with a lot of the baggage that even I had, the more I talked about it, the better I felt about it, and the more I was able to put things into perspective. That where you might take a negative and look at something that positive that came out of it. So that's kind of how Alan and I got to know each other, and then Alan would tell me about his life growing up, and it really, I was really able to help him, a few times when he was struggling. Just a couple weeks ago, I'm like, dude, you're isolating. That's not good.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So a little backstory. I had a bit of trouble. I mean, I'll be honest, with my parents, right? Just figuring stuff out, and I realized, and he helped me realize, he really like chewed me out, like in a good way. Like I'll always remember this. Like whenever I'm experiencing, I've had a very interesting year. Whenever I'm experiencing like a core life moment, I kind of get a feeling, and I had a feeling, I'm like, this will be something I remember. When he was like on the phone, he's like, Alan, you need to, like, I hadn't talked to my parents in 2 months because there's a bit of shame, a bit of guilt, but also like I was kind of angry at myself and just how things had went over a year, just with like moving out and all that. Like I just really didn't know what to think or what to do, but he really just helped me frame reality, in a good way. And I don't need to get into the weeds of it too much, but it was, it's just like, guys, as a young person who doesn't know anything, the one thing I do know is that having older people that you can ask questions about, who their motive isn't to, do what's best for them, but they're honestly just trying to help you grow in God, like, which is what Mr. Puffer does for me. Like if I'm door dashing, he'll be watching some military videos while I go in and grab food, and then, or some what's Enforce Ukraine, or whoever he watches online, right?
Ukraine.
And his news stories, and then we'll talk. I'll just be driving around for a few hours, like just having those friends who know more than you, specifically your gender, and like they are godly people, and they're where you want to be. They're at least 10 years ahead of you in life, and they're doing well in certain areas, especially spiritually. That's what I really look for. I have about 5 or 6 mentors, but Mr. Puffer is probably by far the best one I've had, because especially bonus points if he's your boss, right? Because you can really work under somebody, and they'll take the time and grace to show you things and teach you things. Like I would credit Mr. Puffer with showing me how to start to become a man, right? And we've been able to mutually help each other with, what the Bible calls fellowship. And I just really think it's important and a necessity to have that in your life, because without mentors and good books recommended by those mentors, I don't know how I would have gotten by the last 2 to 3 years with all these random life challenges, without that knowledge and wisdom gained by, those people. So this is something I really try to emphasize when I'm talking with young people my age who are just really struggling with something. I'm just like, talk to someone who knows more than you and has been through that. If you can't find that, that's why we started this podcast, because I'm realizing most people, just on this point alone, at least for me, is we have 4,000 weeks to live, right? 80 times 52 is about 4,196, right? So you take that and you think, I'm an 18-year-old kid, or I'm a 16-year-old kid, and you're already like 800 or 900 weeks through. So you're already like a quarter way through, right? Mr. Puffer, you're a little over halfway, right? Crazy to think.
I got more years behind me than I have ahead of me, probably at this point. Yeah. I'll be 50. Let's say I was born in 73, so I'll be 52.
52.
Yeah, 52 in January. So.
Yeah, so like time goes quick. Like even this last week for me, just crazy. So yeah, you want to tell the story of the 11-hour hay day?
Oh, the straw day.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was Alan's. So we have a saying on the farm. We're not going to kill ourselves unless we have to. And I said there are going to be those days that we're going to have to we're going to have to push through. And so I don't remember exactly what happened the day before, but I put up 600. Well, Dad and I, and Dad at that time was, I think, 82. We put up 600 bales, small squares of straw, which then we turn around and we sell to a local, basic.
And for you city kids out there, a small bale, so they probably weigh what, 50 pounds?
Well, hay is probably 40 pounds, and straw is probably
6'6", so they're about like this big.
Yeah, they're about 36 inches long and about 18 inches wide.
Yeah, so that's how they
come out of the baler.
So they're not the big round ones that you'll see out of like corn stalks out in the field, but they're just like your hay bales that you'll see for decoration or whatever. But like,
so
horses.
The day before I had done 600, and I can't remember. You had something going on that you couldn't make it the one day.
Yeah,
and then that next day I'm like, Alan, I'm definitely going to need you, and he's like, oh, I'm available, and I think we started. Well, I think we had 2 racks already baled, and that needed to go in the barn.
It was like a Tuesday, and I helped you that Wednesday. So like,
yeah,
I think we did a normal 8-hour day.
But
yeah, so Jess Joe lives on a farm too.
Okay.
Somewhere out in Canada, as far as they've talked about in the Discord. So
well, and the funny thing about it was, so we got the first 2 racks unloaded because we had to wait for the straw, the dew to get off the straw. And then as soon as we got the first 2 unloaded, then we went and we baled. And in total, we baled, I think about 1,500 small squares. And then it came time, and it was hot. And if you've ever been up inside of a hay mow, inside of an old barn, it's hot. And with that heat, you drink plenty of fluids, but you got to get it stacked. And so we had the conveyor. Alan was bringing the bales to me, and I was starting to stack. And we got about 500 of the 700 bales that day in. And Alan's like, Mr. Puffer, can we call it? And I'm like, Alan, we got rain coming. There is no calling it. This is one of these days where I said you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to push past the pain, but I promise you'll come out better on the outside, on the other side. And I said, because you're always stronger. We are always stronger than what we think we are mentally. And the only way to get stronger is push past the point of where you think you can't do it anymore. And I mean, it was so bad. Alan was sitting there with his arms out like this, and they were just shaking like a leaf because he had thrown so many bales. Because first he had stacked them on the rack, so that was move number 1, and then it was move number 2. So in reality, when we say we put up 700 bales, Alan moved those bales twice. So he moved 1,400 bales at 25 pounds per bale. So
and that was before I started lifting, guys. And like I work at a pallet shop right now. I'm still pretty skinny and stuff, but like I was even smaller then. But it's like, it's just crazy with the right environment. Don't know if I'd survive that. I think you would if you just think about 2 months you had to work out in a farm, and you get used to a schedule, and you have fun working there, and then you got to push a little bit more that day, you would build up endurance. It's just like you talked about mental limits that you really have to get past. But it definitely taught me something. There was another day I worked like that with a guy who I'm probably going to help start a channel. But, guy named Scott, and he had a bunch of instruments, and he had a recital, and it was like a snowstorm coming. And then we put up, we had to drive 45 minutes to a neighboring town, and then back and forth in his little Honda. And I drove a Honda in snow, and it was like a foot of snow. And the clearance on that car is like this, one of those mileage vehicles. But those moments, but then it was icy the other day, guys. And DoorDash was paying $3 or $4 extra an order, but I knew how to drive in ice because of that one little lesson. So it's you just have those lift 50 pounds. But yeah, you could push through. You could push through, Trooper. You just gotta like. It's really handy when someone's right next to you saying you gotta do this.
You got it.
Like it's one thing by yourself, but it's another thing when like you have to, you know.
And life's a mountain that you're constantly climbing. If you really think about it, you know, you start out and you gain knowledge, and as you gain knowledge, things start going well for you. Or if you make a mistake, things go bad for you, and you're climbing this mountain. And this is a thing Steve Harvey talked about. He goes, and you're pulling a wagon. What kind of people are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to help you push that wagon up the mountain? Or are you surrounding yourself with people as you're trying to get to the peak of this mountain of life? Are you surrounding yourself with people that don't have your best interest and are trying to push your wagon back down the mountain? And that's a question we have to ask ourselves every single day. Is that person helping me achieve, or are they hindering me? You'll find throughout life, when you try something new or you're doing something that nobody else has done, you will find there are a lot more naysayers. I don't know if you guys know what naysayers are, but
people who yap about things that aren't
that they say, oh, you'll never be successful at it. Well, if you let their mindset determine your success because you're constantly around that person that is so negative, one, you got to ask what's going on there in their life, you know, from a God perspective, because most people tend not to be that negative. But
it also comes from, I would say, like, at least in the U.S., and I've seen it overseas a lot, you know, streaming the last few years, is just the victim mindset.
Yes.
Because
very dangerous mindset.
It's basically the mindset of, I don't have the right environment, so therefore I can't do this. So it's like they put the, you know, it's like a chicken and egg thing. It's like, I can never have this because I don't have that, but I can't make this because I don't have that thing. It's just you create this like false loop in your mind, and you lie to yourself every day. But like, I'll get into the story later, guys. Like, I moved out at 17, and like that was another time, you know, I had to figure it out. You know, it's like you know, you get to those mentalities, you get to those moments in life where like, if you haven't built up your life well or spent the last year, like when those hard moments come and you don't know what to do, like if you hadn't been reading the books or been going to church or like investing yourself in, oh, are we losing connection? Oh, it's just loading in my end. Like if you hadn't been doing just the little things, I always ask myself, did I do the basics today? Like, did I eat good food? Was I around good people? Whatever. I'm trying to remember where I'm going with this, but basically you just have to, you know, there's a quote from Alex Ramosi I really like. It's like, the people underneath you, with whatever level where you're at, like let's say you're bench pressing 100 pounds, you know, everyone underneath you will say your form is bad, whatever. But the guy who's in the corner in the gym, who's like back squatting, you know, 300 pounds, he's just concerned to getting his PR to 305. You know, he's not going to talk you down. In fact, he might come over and help you with your form. So it's like the people who are ahead of you in that area of your life, they're the ones who are going to help you out. They're the ones who are going to say, you know, maybe you have something to say on that, but like the people ahead of you versus behind
they're the
you.
ones that you want to seek counsel from. If
Yeah.
you see somebody who is being successful at something you want to do, the best thing you can do is talk to that individual, and find out, hey, how did you do this? Because the most important thing in life is, yes, we can learn from our mistakes, but if somebody has already made that mistake and they can get that knowledge out to you, that's weeks and months and years it may shave off of off of what it takes to build a successful business. You know, Alan, he talks about moving out at 17. He is, I will tell you, from the moment I met him, he's like, I want to graduate school as fast as I can, and I want to get out and I want to start life. And I thought it was pretty impressive that he had that mindset, because most people are like, oh, I want to live with my parents as long as possible. And here, he's always wanted to grow up fast. and I was like, dude, enjoy it while you can, because, man, life can be brutal, and I said, so take advantage of it. And it really helped. But then when he was running into issues, I would talk to him, hey, you want to be a man? Okay, let's talk about being a man. Where's your first month's and last month's rent, your utility deposits, furniture, how much your utilities going to cost, car insurance, car payments. You have to make that money if you're going to do that. And to his credit, I will say, he has been busting his butt to make ends meet, and he's learning, and that is probably the most important thing.
And I discovered this by accident, guys. Just to add to that, and I think it's because I had an inquisitive nature growing up. But like he said, asking the qualified people the right questions, and I'm realizing how many people I see that don't do that. And I think that's if I had to point it into one thing, it's obviously God. It's all God's grace, but underneath of that is He has provided me with opportunities to ask people questions, right? And if you can learn that, just get over that little moment of fear, push that fear away until the moment's over, because then it won't matter. And get, I've heard a good definition of courage. Courage is acting like you're not scared until it's over. You just gotta literally pretend or fake it till you make it, whatever. Because your emotions and your feelings, they are just that. They're feelings. They are not always based on truth. They can be a symptom, or they can just be a bad gut feeling that doesn't always relate to something. I'm still learning what emotions are and what they mean, but in that moment, everything in your mind will say, don't do it. It's not worth the time. My parents wouldn't like this, or whatever, or this is socially unacceptable, so go ask questions, or I'd be wasting his time. I promise you, older men, older women, they don't have enough people walk up to them anymore. If you learn how to stand up straight and shake someone's hand today, especially from an older man, they're gonna respect that, right? It's those little things, and go ask them the questions, hey, I just moved out, or hey, I want to graduate early, or hey, the goals I had, right? But for you, it's hey, I'm thinking about college. What's ask your teachers, what local colleges around here could save me money, or what local colleges have the best courses, or
do I even need to go to college?
Exactly, all those questions, right? And just start asking. And guys, even at work today, there was a dumb question I had to ask, but because for example, I was cutting out these boards on a table saw all day, 1.5, right? But I was is it 1.5 or 2 inches? I couldn't remember because I hadn't written it down, and that's what they told me, but I forgot. So I'm hey Dave, is it 1.5 or 2? And even though he looked slightly annoyed, it saved me from wasting probably 500 boards. Those little things. And you got to think from the business side, that would cost them more than my manager being slightly annoyed for a split second, Exactly. And over time, people will appreciate that from you. I've learned is asking the questions, because that means that you care for yourself and you care for them. And look at the camera and nod away.
Hey, I'm new at this.
Yeah, we are new to this, so
I'm new. I'm actually kind of looking at Alan as he's talking, but
I was just saying we could consider in the future using my tripod and having a third camera so it shows both of us, so we can. Yeah. But that's in the future. So, but just asking questions, being scared to not ask questions is what I'm talking about. But
especially when you're hitting low points in your life, what you think may be super traumatic, because you've never experienced it, may be super traumatic, and I'm not saying it's not, but when life puts it into perspective, when you're talking to somebody else, and that somebody, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I have no money. and and I have no money at all. But and how am I going to make it? And you're worried about things like that. But then you talk to somebody and you find out their kid's dying of cancer. Is money really something you should be really worried about? Do God's work. I always say the money will come, but you have to put whatever current thing is going on in your life in perspective. That and I've heard some horrific stories, folks. So you have to put that into perspective of is my thinking right to justify the emotions I'm feeling? Because you think it's the end of the world, and then 5 minutes later you talk to somebody who finds out their kid is dying of cancer or has been diagnosed with cancer. Is the money thing really that important? Are you, yeah, it takes money to live. I get that. But in the scope of thing, life is more precious than money any day of the week. And I think we got to ground ourselves in our thinking. And it's amazing as you look back through life, especially for me, there was times that, man, I thought this thing was the end of the world. And then life happens. And as a first sergeant, boy, I mean, the horror stories that happened. I had one young lady, and she had a first husband. She divorced him, married a second husband, but she was having some mental health problems. And so I sat down, I talked to her because her husband was concerned, was the big thing. And I said, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, not much. Well, let me tell you, if you think somebody's got something going on and you say, hey, how you doing? Or are you all right? Or are you good? Ask them 3 times, because usually by the 3rd time, if they're not good, they're going to let you know, because the average person by the 3rd one, if they're not good, they're going to be shaken or crying, and then life is going to happen and you're going to have to deal with it. And in this particular young lady's situation, her first husband had sexually assaulted her with a pistol. So I want you to let that sink in. Terrible, right? And the military has a pretty decent system of dealing with family issues, and at least they did 8 years ago, and things that happened. And so I was talking with her provider, and he's like, I'm at a loss, because they had tried different medications and that kind of stuff. And I just sat down and I talked to her with the young lady, and I said, hey, how do you feel in crowds? Because I was sitting there trying to figure out what is going on. And that's when she had told me about her first marriage and everything that had happened. And as we were doing that, it came out what had happened to her in her first marriage. And I said, what counseling did you receive? And she's like, none. I just got my gun and I went back to work the next day. So here you have this woman who's gone through a traumatic experience. Personally, I think it was a failure on her leadership at her previous base for not dealing with it. But her husband was also military, and he was actually court-martialed for it. But long story short is, I sat there and I was asking her questions. I'm like, okay, hey, how do you feel in these situations? Because as a guy who's done 2 combat tours in Iraq, I did gun trucks, which we escorted convoys up and down the MSRs, which are supply routes throughout Iraq, you get to see some stuff that you don't necessarily want to remember. And human nature is kind of push it down and let it lie. And sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. In her case, when I started and we had so many guys coming back with issues, just saw too much. And so PTSD was huge, in my career field. And so anyway, I started asking her PTSD questions. And, man, she had every box checked. And then when I asked her, I said, so did you get any counseling? She's like, no. And so then I said, well, I think you probably need to deal with this. Well, I didn't say I think. I said, I know you need to deal with this.
Exactly.
And so then I called up her counselor and I said, she's got PTSD. And I said, she checks every box she checks. And so it was about a month later, I got a letter through my commander, saying from this mental health doc, in all his years, he's never seen somebody who's taken the time and was able to figure out what was going on. And it changed the lady's life, and that's what life's about. Yeah, we all want to be rich, right? But it's not about the money.
Just think about that, guys. If you spend 5 minutes and put your arm around somebody, or, especially like your parents, just give them a hug and say, I love you, Mom, right before you leave school, or those little things. Those are the things when you're 80, as far as I've heard stories and understand. I'm not quite there yet, like Mr. Puffer, but I'm kidding.
That was good, Alan.
So that's what matters, right? It's those moments that you can give people, and the appreciation to, or just the servant heartedness to say, how are you? And say it a few times and really dig in deep to what's going on and ask them, I've seen a lot of suicidal people online, or even a few of my, classmates and stuff. Like, no one else would see it, but like, you could just if you just like kind of sit there and look around, get off your phone, and just like, you start to notice patterns in people. You'll start to see the face expressions of people. And they're usually sitting by themselves, they're scrolling, or they're bored, and just like go sit next to them, pray for an opportunity, assuming you know God, and like really ask them, how are you doing? What are you up to? And it will light up their day and maybe even their year. Especially people who are more introverted or who aren't naturally going to go see people. Like, you got to find that one little thing you're kind of good at and use that to conversate with people, right? Like, if you're a good soccer player, right? Like, be that guy on your team who is just the rock of the team, right? Who anyone can trust, and work on your reputation, and which is it's a lot easier to destroy a reputation than to build one. But like, those little things, right? Like, try to live a good life yourself, so that when those moments come, that first of all, you're poured into properly, you're in the Word and stuff, like reading the Bible. Like, if you do the basics in your life, then imagine what you can do for others. Right? Like, imagine the little things, the big things, right? The little things always turn into the big things. I've realized, like, every little problem you don't deal with turns into the big problem that will almost kill you. And
pride is probably the number one thing that prevents people from asking for help.
Yeah. It eats them alive.
And it eats them alive, and it eats them from within. And then when you look at it from a spiritual aspect, say you have this person with some severe trauma, and then they want to be prideful, and they don't want to let the mission fail, or they don't want to let people see them weak. And I look at it from that's where the devil's talking. You're not worthy. You're not. Nobody's going to believe you. you always screw things up. Mindset is so important, and perspective, and the thoughts behind your actions. You know, yeah, it's great if you can have good money, grow, have good money, but that's not what that you can't take it with you, folks. You cannot take it with you. All the money in the world will never make you happy if you are miserable. It just never will. It'll give you avenues to dull the pain, but you ain't dealing with stuff, man. You ain't living.
Any opportunity, right? The best friend groups, the best family relationships, the best whatever. Like if you don't deal with the pain, or the best church Bible study, or the best, like if you don't take the moment to help people, or the moment, and I've noticed that when I spend the most time to go help people, that's when I also tend, because it's like your heart opens up both ways, right? You don't have like an in and out gate in your heart. It's just like open or closed. So like when he called me out for isolating, even just a few weeks ago, I noticed, but then I really prayed about it. And at night, I laid in my bed and just talked with God about it. Or I even went on a drive and just yelled in the air, just like to get it off my chest. But God takes those things and he'll take the crap out of your life and he'll put more of himself in your heart. And he opened up my heart to people the last few weeks. And it's just like amazing weekend, right? I had a 2.5 hour breakfast with a guy from my church, right? And then the church service was good, and like the Sunday school and all that stuff, right? It was just really excellent because God reminded me to take the moment.
And you're surrounding yourself with good people.
And then now I'm seeing opportunities how, as I'm learning about this media stuff, I'm like, maybe I could help churches with media stuff, right? It's like, I would have never thought of that if I hadn't, been willing to ask the guy, hey, would you go to breakfast? Because I got his insight, right? Like all those things. And then, and then I can pay my dues by, one thing I've realized as a young person, you think that you're wasting people's time by asking questions, but you're actually paying your respects. And like, that's what you give, the value you give people, to older people. Cause like, they don't feel respect in this culture, for example, right? Yeah, right. And like I'm saying, like taking the moment to ask them questions and really listen to somebody who's older than you, they will love that.
Absolutely.
They adore that.
Because the whole point is to make life easier, right? I have, well, I mean, if you figure out, 5 years before I was really, formed a personality, a little bit before that, I remember things about 3.5, 4 years old. But when you look at it, taking the time to surround yourself with those people that are going to make your life better, and ask those questions. But the important thing is if so 53 minus 5 would put me at, oh boy, here we go, public math, 48 and 48 years of experience. Well, if I can prevent you from making the same mistake, or I can offer a perspective that helps you deal with the situation, man, you're shortcutting a lot of pain and trauma, my friends. Just a ton of pain and trauma.
That's an intro moment, editor.
But life happens every day. How many folks we got in here? 5 concurrent viewers. Wow.
Yeah.
23 views. 23 views total.
Watch for 10 minutes on average. That's crazy. So thank you guys.
Crazy. Hey, we appreciate it.
It's a good first stream.
So does anybody have anything out there that they're going through right now that they'd like to share with?
Yeah. Hey, Fiend Monkey, maybe just join. We're asking, what are some struggles that you've seen around you or that you're dealing with that we could potentially break down or talk about?
Everybody see there's another school shooting today?
Where was it?
It was in Madison, Wisconsin.
What was the story behind it?
Well, it just happened late this afternoon, but the last I heard, there was 3 dead, including the shooter.
Was it adult or high school?
It was actually an Abundant Life. It was actually an Abundant Life Christian school, K through 12, one building.
Abundant Life?
Well, there's many Abundant Lives.
Yeah.
But it was an Abundant Life Christian school. And one ask, it just frustrates me because I sit there and I go, what was that kid going through that was the best option? I mean, it just floors me that, and it's tragic. It's tragic all around, because life is precious and we only get one shot at this.
Yeah.
And we all have an appointment with death. And so if we're looking at from a Christian point of view, what are we doing? How was that kid so isolated that was his best option? And we don't know. And I'm sure we'll find more out today. We'll find out more in the coming days. But it's really just so sad that is what somebody sees as their best option, which means we're not talking to each other, which is really sad. That we don't take the time to talk to each other and have meaningful conversations, folks. I would get on. I've got two boys, a 30-year-old and a 26-year-old. I think it is. Yeah, I think that's right. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what when I have kids like that, you know, and they're doing good things. What is going on in that house where the parents aren't? And I don't know whether the parents aren't talking to the kids. But with my youngest one of the things I always said, because he would always be on his cell phone, right? And we'd be doing things out on the farm. He's always constantly on the cell phone, texting and that kind of stuff. And when you drive down the road and you see a bald eagle in the field, I always stop. And my son's like on his phone. He's like, "Why are we stopping?" I said, "Because life is not in this. Life is all around you." And I think that's one of the reasons we see all the issues we see with that's going on with kids is the phone, because we don't have conversations. And I hate texting. I 100% hate texting. And the reason I hate texting is because you get no gauge of how a person is doing. I had a bad day.
No context, just word, no expression, no body language, no
nothing. But boy, at least if you pick up the phone and you actually talk to that human, you can figure out pretty quick how bad their day is, and that's huge, and that's your opportunities to make a difference in life. So everybody is living all four viewers that we have right now, y'all living the perfect life, have no issues.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a recent example. One of my friends, his parents went through a divorce. And he texted me, "Alan, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good. How about you?" And I knew that something was going on because he's the kind of guy that will just give me a call. Like, he'll always be driving on his way to college in his truck, and I'll call him or whatever. So, like, I'm usually the guy, I'm a social guy. So I'm the social bug. So I'll reach out to people, but he reached out to me. And since I've tried to have this mindset of helping people. Like, by God's grace, I had a thought because I've been praying that God would make me aware for opportunities to help people or be a good listener, right? Because I had a bad habit for a while where I just talk about myself on a call for an hour instead of asking other people. So then I realized, I was like, how is this guy doing? And I said, how are you doing? And he's like, my parents got a divorce. Right? And if I hadn't sent that text and I called him, and after calling for 15 minutes, I'm like, you're probably just in shock right now. Your family's torn apart. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, you're kind of the only guy I can talk to. And that just really hit me, guys. I'm like, and he stuck with me versus anybody else, which is unfortunate. It's like he, like I was the one guy in his life that reached out. And like, it's nothing exceptional. It took a minute, but, and like, by God's grace, he's been reading the Bible and stuff for the first time, and like God's really working on him and using this time to make him rethink life. But it's like, who knows how, imagine that kid who did the school shooting, right? His parents get divorced when he's 5 years old, and then he gets picked on at school, and there's just these, like just like that lady that in that story you told, right? Who got essayed and or sexually assaulted, and she held on to that for a year, 2 years, whatever, right? So that kid, like I would call humans parasitic intelligence, right? We take the things in our environment, good or bad, and we make them a part of ourselves. And it's just an interesting way of describing people, right? So it's like we have to cling to something, right? We have to cling and look towards something with our worldview, the net collective of our opinions. So what I mean by that is that kid took in something that he wasn't meant to when he was younger because people weren't watching out for him. And I think the biggest danger for kids now, like historically, right? A mom and dad would protect their kids not only from bad people but from bad influence. You know, they would be reading books. They would not be on their phone all day. Like I was at Christmas and my cousin's kid was just like watching YouTube Kids the entire time, and I was like, I kind of like looked over and I was like, oh, like I like hurt. It was just like complete brain rot for this 3-year-old kid. You know, it's just like I'm just thinking about all these kids out there who are so lonely. All these kids out there who, and I'm just like, no wonder some of them go ape crazy because they don't have the right inputs. They have the bad inputs. No one cares to ask them, and then they just hold on to these bad moments that grow and fester until that they don't know how to react and their emotions bubble out because they've been bottling it up for years. Take the moment, guys. Check in on people.
And I'm guessing, hope. Hope is what leads. So you have to have something to cling on to, and hope is.
Wait, is my mic? Okay, sorry. I thought my mic didn't work.
and hope is very critical. And the good book right here, that's where we get our hope, because we know the world is not just, folks. We understand that the world is not just. But the good thing about Jesus Christ and God is that they are just. And at the end, everybody's judged. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it used to crack me up because when I was 14, I moved away from my hometown. And then once I graduated high school, my mom went back to college to finish her degree. Once I graduated high school, I joined the military, and then I served for 25 years before I retired. And I would go through the town, and I always saw this sign: "No Jesus, no peace." And one of the interesting things about "No Jesus, no peace" is I would just, and this man sold bikes, but I see this little sign: "No Jesus, no peace," that he has in his front yard right across from the grocery store. And it got me thinking, even with my struggles, PTSD and anxiety, I mean, you see stuff sometimes it bothers you. Bad dreams, that kind of stuff. So I started thinking more about that. And it's when we lose hope that the bad things really seem to take hold and we make rash decisions. And unfortunately, I think the last statistics I saw about 6 months ago is.
I can look it up. What do you want?
Suicide rates of Christians versus non-Christians, or no religious background versus no religious background. It's a staggering amount.
Suicide rates of religious versus non-religious.
It was staggering.
So according to Cambridge University Press and Assessment, the reported findings in line with Durkheim, suicide risk was 27% lower in Protestants and 49% lower with Catholics compared with those with no religious affiliation. So yeah,
Well, think about that.
several.
So
Yeah.
if you know God, uh, you're 25 to 30% less likely to kill yourself. Why? Because you're based in you're grounded, um, and to me that's important. We're losing this spring. My son and I. My son is a Air Force recruiter in Davenport, Iowa, and this spring we went to Chicago and we did a 22-mile hike, um, and it was for suicide awareness because we're losing 22 vets a day. You know, um, and it's just tragic. And unfortunately, I know way too many personally. Um, and it feels like I'm failing my my fellow airmen and soldiers. Um, it's devastating. I've seen the devastating effects suicide has on a family, and it's just not the option. It's not the right option.
There was someone locally who, I think she was 14, and she tried like a TikTok challenge where you like basically hang yourself, and it failed because she slipped. And anyway, like
By the grace of God, then.
she did not live. So
Oh,
yeah, so she passed away.
oh,
And the
I thought you said she failed on her attempt.
No, she failed the challenge where it's like you get close, but it was really stupid. Again, don't watch TikTok, but yet to see it help people. So it was devastating to all of the county, right? Like everyone knew this family, and she was an adopted kid, and like it crushed the soul of her mom and dad. Like I know them well, childhood friends and stuff. Like it. So like if you know someone who's struggling a little bit, whatever shows on the outside, it's just like a tree. Like exactly, TikTok is dumb. Exactly, Jess show. So and YouTube Shorts and all this other stuff, like social media, guys. Like I've been off of it now for like 2 weeks. I've got my screen time down to like under 2 hours, which is like between DoorDash and calling people, whatever, like useful stuff. And it's like my mind has never been more clear. But anyway, just like the devastation a single suicide has on an entire community, even though that person thinks they're worthless, even though that person thinks no one cares, it crushes the souls of their parents, the siblings, their grandparents, their friends, the family, and like brings the collective morale of the people down all the way. And it's just like that one little thing, and it can all be prevented by being a good friend for 5 minutes a day to one person, right? Just like sit down by someone at lunch at school, or on a walk, pat someone on the shoulder or whatever. Like whenever you're near them, just
vector check them. We call it in the Air Force. We call it checking their six. If we were worried about somebody, hey man, I'm just checking your six. You okay? And I can honestly tell you, I've got my circle of friends is very, very small. Doesn't mean I don't help a lot of people, but my circle of what I would consider true friends, people I can count on in my lowest of low moments, I can count on one hand. And I've been able to do that my entire life. And that's something I've taught both my boys, is to choose your friends wisely. And what I mean by that is if you don't intimately know that person, know how they think, know how they tick,
but you give them access to your heart by being around them for a long time, and they have a bad motive, or they're selfish, or they just generally don't care. When you need them, they'll crush you. And that's coming from a kid who was bullied as a kid. Like I can tell you that. Like people you look up to right now, people, if you don't take conscious hold of this, like the people you look up to right now and the people that you think you respect, I would really recheck those, because you probably don't have it right the first try. Like when I did a 2 week, when I moved out, I did a 2 week test. I didn't call most people for like 2 weeks. 90% of people didn't call me. And that really, it's a scary test because it reveals how much, but the people who do reach out, you'll be surprised who it is, but you'll also be very thankful. And that's like, now if people need you, don't do that test, but like try it 3 4 weeks, just stay off media and just see who reaches out. Say, hey, how you doing? And those are the people I would buy coffee. Those are the people I go, like, I like food. Like, I'm a farm kid. I love me mashed potatoes and steak, or
The biggest
breakfast,
mistake
or
I made when hiring Alan was not understanding his appetite when I said, "Oh, my wife cooks lunch every day." So so don't worry about bringing a meal.
uh,
And my wife and I soon realized we had to cook a lot more when Alan was around, but it was worth it because good company, good friendship. You know, I got one guy I talked to from the military. I've known him on a consistent basis, at least 2 3 times a week, and you know we uh, we we talk about real issues because both of us have had PTSD, have had anxiety, and you know there's days I don't have good days, you know, and I know I can call him or he can call me when he's not having a good day. And the biggest thing is because it's kind of nice because I'll be quite honest. I'm usually going. I usually go twice a month to see a mental health provider, just to deal with stuff in the Air Force, and 2 tours in combat and all that good jazz, and being a first sergeant. And the nice thing is when we talk, we actually kind of review our therapy sessions because we may glean something that has helped us, and then I get to pass that on to him, and it's vice versa, and it's give or take, you know. Those are the kind of people you want in your life, you know.
I actually went to counseling a while ago. Like, it was right before I moved out, and my parents were like, "Oh, we think this would help you," and it was helpful. But like, I tell you what, in a 5 minute conversation with Mr. Puffer, because I don't need to catch him up, I don't need to tell him what's going on. He knows me intimately well, like in a good way, as two brothers. Like, I was reading a book today called "It's Good to Be a Man." It talked about one thing that's been lost to history is like good Christian fellowship between brothers, like
Absolutely.
intimately knowing another guy as a very good friend, like David. What's his friend? No, what was his friend's name? David's best friend. I'm trying to remember. My mind's blanking. It was Saul's son.
Challenge my
Oh no. Anyway, like, oh my goodness.
you're gonna challenge my my recall, which
Anyway,
there's a reason I have this here.
yeah.
Memory recall is not necessarily when it comes to scripture is not my strong suit.
Anyway,
I love it is amazing. I love going to church, and you know we got great men at the church, and I strive to retain the knowledge, you know, of verse memorization. It just to me that is one of the most beautiful things to see, and we're talking about life, Daniel.
yep. So, catch you up. I'm Alan. This is Mr. Puffer, or Charles Puffer, and he is my former boss, but current mentor and friend. And we're just talking about life and God. And right now we're just talking about good friends. Yeah, there you go, Jess Show. Jesus and life.
Jesus and
So,
life. and perspectives.
Yeah, I'm gonna moderate Jess show. She's cool. That is a moderator. Boom. And she gets a cool blue name. So, what I was saying earlier is like David and his best friend, there's some people I can call and like better than any paid therapy session or better than anything I've been to. And I've seen 2 counselors in my life. Then it's I can just talk to him. I can talk to Mr. Puffer and be like, I'm dealing with this and what should I do? And
Daniel, you ask why I believe in God? Because he literally changed me from a wretched human being who was not a good man to somebody who's a much better man.
When I was 14, Daniel, I tried to kill myself, and God spoke to me and says, "Can I show you my promises?" I tried to kill myself with a gun. So how has he changed you? He asked.
Talking to a guy who was at the height of, okay, so earlier we were talking about pride, and that's one of the things. It's kind of funny because it's one of the things that will probably be your greatest undoing and lead you to some of the darkest spots, because pride does not allow you to ask for help. Okay, and that's a devil thing. Nobody will understand you. I was killing 2.5 gallons of Jim Beam a night. Sorry, not a night, a week, for about 10 years.
That's pretty dense alcohol, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd get off work and it caused my marriage to suffer. It was I was just not a good man. Whiskey makes me mean. I can count on these hands how many drinks I've had in the last 5-6 years, and it's very rarely any type of whiskey. Because I got so sick, and Daniel, you ask how did God stop that? Because I got so sick and tired of doing it myself, and I grew up Catholic, okay, so I went to catechism every Wednesday, but I'm not trying to disparage. I just had an issue with the Catholic Church. I'm not trying to say the Catholic Church is not legitimate or anything like that. From my perspective, I didn't quite understand why I had to talk to a priest to admit my sins when I can talk to God directly. Well, talk to Jesus. Anyway, I just reached lowest point of my life. I was getting up, going to work, coming home. As soon as I got home, I went downstairs, started drinking. About 10 years of that. And then finally, I just got so sick and tired of it. I just said, God, I give up. I can't do this. It's not working for me. And so I surrendered. Said, you're going to run my life because I'm doing a terrible job of it. And I got back into the Word, and I started reading more, and I started praying more. And
so I think what I can maybe answer this. So let me tell you a little bit of my story, right? So I've never been properly diagnosed, but from a very young age, I would see things on the wall, like schizophrenic stuff. So like monsters, humanoid things, and also the thing called visual snow syndrome, right? And I was losing my mind as an 8th grader, and no one knew about it because I was really good at hiding it. But So I tried to kill myself. God saved me and spoke to me directly. He also supernaturally saved me from pornography. But that was like the 2 months of my life where God was like directly like, here I am with you. But most of the time, what happened? So after I was saved, after God had spoken to me and stuff, I would read the Bible every day. I read Matthew through Revelation, so the last, not half, but the last part of the Bible, right? I think it's the last 29 books, and I noticed that I became more aware of good things around me instead of, huh? Oh, that's fine. It's never a big deal.
Just want to make sure. Hey, I know nothing about this. I
Yeah,
just like to talk.
it just goes up and down, but it will come back. So basically, God will work indirectly in your life very well, right? So when you pray, which I would describe as talking with intention towards God, if I had to sum it up in a simple way,
Say that again.
um, he he would. It's like talking with intention to talk towards God, right?
Yeah.
So, let me break down. So I was a 12-year-old kid with the pornography thing. I was a 12-year-old kid going to look it up, right? I literally looked up naked women, and um, I heard a voice in the back of my mind that wasn't my thoughts, wasn't my subconscious. I have a voice in my head as I talk. Like, some people they think like this is a voice in the back of my head that wasn't mine. It says, "Do not touch that. This will destroy your life." And I'm a pretty obsessive person. Like when I'm really interested in something, I'm very inquisitive. So like I just imagine the last 6 years with that struggle, but God saved me from it, right? And the computer closed. Like the computer closed itself. And or even today, right? So like financially, guys, I'm not doing, I'm 18, I don't have much. And I had to get groceries and I'm like, I don't have any cash on me. But I prayed even this morning. Why doesn't God stop me from watching porn?
Have you asked him into your heart?
Have you asked God about it?
I talk to the good Lord on a daily basis. And I'm usually, it's the one thing. One of the reasons I started the vegetable farm was because I had such bad PTSD and anxiety, and working in an office setting it just wasn't. I just couldn't do it. You know, and I found as I was sitting there working on a 300-foot row of green beans, or picking 1,000 pounds of tomatoes. Found myself praying, but I found myself praying for others more than I was praying for myself at first, because I think the biggest problem we have when it comes to prayer is we try to barter with God, or B, we look at God as what I call Butler Jesus.
Or Gina or a genie, right? Rub the
Yep,
lamp.
rub the lamp. Okay, if I just say this prayer, God's going to help me do this test. Well, that's he's not at you. He's not at your beck and call like that, is how I'd like to put it. There needs to be thought behind prayer. What are your intentions? I pray for wisdom on a daily basis. I pray for an open heart. Well,
Let me go back to what I was saying.
okay.
Let me just describe my prayer life right now. So this morning I woke up and I knew that I had to go work in the cold all day at this pallet job, which it's a great job and I like the people there, but it was just I was warm in bed and comfy and I was just like, and I hadn't slept well last night and I was just like, Lord, please give me strength today. And I knew that like on 5 hours of sleep, which I'm used to getting 8 or 4 or 5, which again some people get none or less than that every night. It was just like I knew I would need help. So I prayed, Lord, give me strength today, please, and help me think clearly, right? So I get up and go, and I realized I have my last packed meal, but I don't have enough money on me because I'm still trying to rebuild the savings to do that. But then it so happens, since I was sick last week, my check from today was in the office. So then I could go cash that in, and I had enough to go get groceries tonight, right? Because like the verse that says God won't let his people go hungry, like when I mean like I have just enough to live on, guys, I mean like I have just enough. And like I was just like,
I'm doing a little bit better.
you know,
But I got the years and the experience.
Yeah. It was just like that. But what advice do you have on lust?
On lust?
In pornography and that addiction.
The biggest thing is
it's a hard thing. A lot of guys.
It's a dopamine hit is really what it is. The whole internet is a giant dopamine hit, meaning that every click you do or every text message, it gives us a little bit of satisfaction. Well, so if you know you're struggling, one, the best way to do it is to actually talk about it.
Get it out of your head.
To get it out of your head. Say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I mean, if you look at how marriage was intended between a man and a woman, they get married. Well, the man moves away, finds his wife, they get married, they become one flesh. Okay? When you have that is how God intended it. Well, if you and it's supposed to be a loving act, with your partner. It's supposed to be met in love. Well, look at what pornography offers you. I mean, have you seen some of the stuff? It's just insane, right? Choking, slapping, hitting. That's crazy. And what ends up happening is your brain gets so programmed for that next dopamine hit that when you first started out and you were just looking at like maybe a naked picture in a magazine, well, that was my generation, I guess. Google. Just mild naked women on the internet. Well, guess what? Pretty soon that doesn't satisfy you anymore. And so then you're going on to the next thing and the next thing. And the depravity keeps stepping up and stepping up and stepping up and stepping up. I mean, look at P. Diddy. The allegations with him. Holy buckets. We're talking about minors. And it's because at some point he didn't have that guiding force in his life or to sit there and say, hey, you're messing up. Or he didn't have that one person who did the right thing at his first party and goes, I want no part of this. There's nothing godly about that.
When you say the first yes to a small form of evil.
Exactly.
It gets easier and easier. And guys, I used to scroll on YouTube for just because I haven't viewed pornography, I was still addicted to the internet in general, just watching stupid stuff online.
Daniel, you can't say that because you were not there. You can't say that God never spoke to him.
But I gave my phone to a mentor, and then I checked in with a YouTuber friend of mine who is a really good editor and really good at focusing and using some computer as a tool. I'm like, how do I do this? He's like, for the next 48 hours, you're going to get a video out. And that's all you're going to do on your computer. You're either going to edit or be off your computer. And he helped me get a plugin on my computer that when I open it up, there's no recommend on YouTube. And I gave up my phone for a week. Now, this is as an adult with people who need to call me. And I still did it. And ever since then, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't need social media to exist. I'm not dead. So if you can, what are your sources of interneting, right? It's gonna suck, but give it to a buddy at school and just say who's
your ride or die person that is doing positive things in your life?
Yeah.
that's where you need to have the discussion, and the hard discussion of saying, hey, I'm really struggling with pornography here. You know, that is where that's a good starting part. Somebody you trust, where you can be vulnerable. You know, that's the first step to acknowledge, hey, I've got an issue. But
bonus points if it's your parents.
What?
Bonus points if it's your own dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if your dad's a good man, and like you know that he won't really hurt you or use this against you somehow or whatever or manipulate. Like really, if he's a good man, you know, give your computer to him, and just say, I need help with this.
Doesn't God stop serial killers? Evil exists, my friend.
We should ask ourselves this: if God has a perfect standard, in that we break it every day, why isn't there more evil and more natural disasters in the world? That's a thought from Paul Washer.
Well, it goes because it's called free will. That's what God gives us. We have choices.
Yeah, Nvidium, I would like all your devices, every single form of whatever, you know, give it, like, just get rid of it for a week and don't touch it. Not somewhere in your house, but like literally give it to your buddy at school or somebody you can trust and be like, hey, I just need to, don't even tell them about, you may not even need to tell them about the porn part. Just tell them, I need to get off my computer and I want to like start going on walks and stuff. And, or if you're young, play in the snow and actually be a kid, you know, like, or hang out with my friends IRL, whatever, like, and just get rid of it for a week. Break the loop. Yeah. And like, if your parents ask about it, just say, you know, yeah, week.
Idiom. Okay, can you expand a little bit on if I tell my dad I don't know what it'll do, but I know what he will do won't work?
Call my phone. Yeah. So you need to, there's a guy I know named Case Finley, and I talk with him. He's a creator, but he's a really great Christian guy. He was recently saved, like, but he's a very smart reader and entrepreneur, right? And he spends his time writing papers right now. And he says, whenever I see an issue in my life, I go straight for the jugular, go straight for the throat, go straight to the heart of the problem, and go kill it. Right? The Bible says to flee from sin, right? But specifically sexual sin.
Absolutely.
Because it's a very addictive one. Any guy can tell you that. So
Yep.
Go for the heart of the issue and replace that time with something useful, right? Like, I would say educate yourself on something. Buy a book and sit there and stare at the book. Or, you know, if you have some good friends, actually, like, you know, just hides it.
It just solve the problem. It just hides it.
Let me show you guys something I recently did. I put all my apps into folders, and I literally have one called distractions, and then I just delete social medias, right? So like I literally have to tap into a folder and go against my own standard every day. And then the only other half is this, right? And I have my screen time to say how much I was on it, right? So it's like I literally have to click into a folder full of these apps, but then I realize, oh, there's a lot of apps in there, so I just start deleting them, right? And every single day, if you have that app, just delete it out of practice when you do get your phone back, right? That's how I've gotten off social media this last week, and I've never felt more free, you know?
And like I said, it's also, Nvidium. So Nvidium, are you a Christian? I'm just asking. It's okay if you're not. I'm not here to judge. I have no right to judge anybody because, like I said, there's only one person who has led a perfect life, and it surely is not me. It was our Lord Jesus Christ. So that's why I ask, are you a Christian or do you have any religious upbringing at all? Other than that, okay. Okay, you are a Christian? Okay. Um one is I would tell you so typically what I do is I will go to a very I will go to a room in the house that's very very quiet, um, because I don't want to be distracted when I'm praying. Um, and so I will go and then uh, I will sit there and I will pray for individuals or uh, and I always end my prayers the same way. Your will be done, not mine. Um, but I pray about the issue that's affecting the individual, uh, and I ask from deliverance. Basically deliverance from that issue that they're going through or resolution, um, and then I talk with that individual. That's pretty much how I do it, and say, hey, how are you doing? What is your struggles?
In the video, like recognize the fact that if you pray 5 minutes a day, you're not gonna. If you try to sit down and pray for like 4 hours, you might do it the first day, but like you gotta start small.
Yep.
Like when I was first saved, like reading a chapter of the Bible a day, like was just crazy. But I started with a few verses, and like all of a sudden I was reading like half a book a day with the smaller books. Like it just takes a while. Or for example, this year, I can take in about half an audiobook a day, right? Because I'm at work, I put in an earbud, and I know to stay focused but listen to it. It started at my office job, and I listened to literally 15 minutes a day. My head would hurt. I would have so much to think about. And that was like 6 months ago. But every day I would just add in a little bit more, add it incrementally. That's my most recent example. Or, you just got to start with the little thing that you know that you can accomplish, but you also know will challenge you a little bit, right? So it's like giving up your phone, and I'm going to read the Bible 5 minutes every morning. And I'm going to pray. And if you're going to pray 5 minutes, pray, first of all, that God will give you more things to pray about. That's been the most helpful prayer in my life. It's like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to spend more time with you. And God honors that.
Yep. If you ask for help, He comes. I'm a firm believer. Um, you'll get your answer, um, and He'll help you. And sometimes it is not the answer you want, but it started. You didn't become addicted to it overnight, so you're not going to become unaddicted to it overnight either. We all fail. Everybody fails on a daily basis because we can't live up to the word, but that's what we're to strive to do. So don't. First of all, you have to have the mindset of I can beat this. I went from every morning for about 2 years waking up covered in sweat, running outside to get to the fresh air and puking over the guardrail because of a nightmare or anxiety, to it doesn't happen as often. It still happens, but I recognize, hey, I am so much more fortunate than where I was before. It still can be frustrating when we fail, but when you go from every day throwing up over the railing in your house to maybe once every 2 months, man, you talk about a change in your life. Is it perfect? No. And so you just start small and you just go, hey, I don't know how bad your addiction is, but maybe it's making it through the next hour, or making it through the next 2 hours. And it goes back to the earlier conversation. We're stronger than we think. And we're stronger than we think, and it will be beneficial to.
Like I always just like to go back to good verses, right?
Yep.
Even though it might be overstated sometimes, or they might whatever, right? Like or um, undervalued. I just always think like just let me read this to you. Psalm 23, a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is when David was like, I think, gonna get killed. And he's like, imagine like you're an 18-year-old shepherd boy and you play some music for a guy who's trying to kill you, and you're hiding in caves, right? And even though you're just anointed, told you're gonna be king. So this is his scenario, right? Always perspective thing.
Yep.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, this is literally, I think Pastor Phil talked about it. Literally
Yep.
a valley in Israel, where shepherds would have to go to bring their sheep to a watering hole, and they call it the valley of the shadow of death because predators would hide in these rocks and these shadows and just kill sheep one after the other. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Just recognize that God is with you. God is here. He wants to help you. Just like cry out for help. Like honestly, a lot of my life changed a few weeks ago when I went on a drive and literally just yelled in the air and just like, God, I need help right now. I don't know what I'm doing, and life is so confusing. I just got a little. I was like overwhelmed that week specifically, and it was just take the time to invest in your relationship with God.
And
And
I would tell you the best thing you can do, especially if you're having the urge, is say a prayer to God and say, God, I am struggling so hard. Please take this from me. I mean, that's basically what I ended up doing with alcohol. I was just like, God, I can't do this. I'm killing myself. That was literally my thoughts. I am killing myself, and I know I'm killing myself, yet I can't stop. But pride wouldn't let me. Pride wouldn't let me ask for help, um, and and so I just started praying, and I started praying, and then I got to the point where I just told my wife, I said, I'm sorry for being such a lousy husband. I'm done drinking because it was going to cost me my marriage, folks. That's the God's honest truth. You know, and if he can change a horrible wretch like me, like I said, I was not a good man. I was a good dad, but I was definitely not being a good husband. Um, but it starts with that prayer of God, I cannot do this.
pray that prayer every day for a month,
Yeah.
and just wait to see, have faith to see
And
how
when
it's
you're
going to help you, and you'll wake up one day and be like, things are getting a little bit better.
and when you're struggling, that's when you need to be praying and say, God, I need your help here. I know you're here, and yeah, changed my life. Heck, you know, I was in the Word, but I didn't have a church, and then along came Alan. I worked 3 or 4 months for you before you said, "Oh, we go to this church."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You want to come?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Changed my life. Just absolutely changed my life.
And then God's humor.
I am grateful every single day that God put this young man in my life because he gave me a church home.
And then God's humor is then I start struggling with a different area of life. And Mr. Puffer, you know, he he started pointing me the right way with his you know, earthly and biblical wisdom he's learned over time. It's just like, look, if you want to man up, here's what you gotta do. But also like life sucks, and here's how I've learned to deal with it in these different ways, right? So Thanks for all your advice. I need to use my phone for some other things. Yeah, just make a commitment to yourself. Write it down. You
Yep.
know.
And we'll be praying for you tonight, for sure. And again, like I said, when you have that temptation, turn to God instead of turning to your phone, and say a prayer. God, I'm struggling. I need your help. Please take it away. And you'll find that it's going to lessen if you're consistently, when you're struggling, and you know you are going to find that if you confront that with a prayer, the urge, in my experience, tends goes away. Doesn't mean it ain't going to come back, because the devil's always looking to get his hooks into somebody. You know, oh, remember how great that felt. Yeah.
That's good to know. Good to hear. My church has been doing a New Testament in a year, and we have a few days left, and we did a year of reading every day.
Outstanding. Yeah. See, and that goes back, and like I said, I think the biggest problem is we feel shame, and yeah, we know it's wrong, and we feel that shame, but we don't want to let anybody in on our little secret. Well, guess what? When you don't let anybody in on your little secret, things don't tend to get better, because you went from, that doesn't mean there's not hope, but you gradually got to the point where, it went from once a week to, every day, or 2-3 times a day, just depending.
Just recognize the fact. I learned this. Our mics are double. Okay. I just don't want double audio so they can hear us. So what was I saying? Just recognize the fact. I learned this the hard way this year, is that if you don't maintain the good things in your life, that they will die, and that includes knowledge. Like, I used to be a huge science buff and a huge plant nerd, and I hadn't really maintained that knowledge in a year, and I kind of forgot it all. Obviously, it'll come back as we do this podcast and stuff, but just find one. Don't tackle all your sin at once. Just think of one that, and maybe it's not the biggest. Like, I heard there's, let's say you have 3 credit cards you're trying to pay off. One's 20% interest, and the other's 15, the other's 10, right? Basically, there's the psychological way to do it, and then there's the logical way. The logical way says, with this big amount of debt, I'm going to get rid of the big one first, so I have the biggest win, so I have more money to deal with the other ones. But the emotional way is that you start with a small issue and you pay that one off first, so you get momentum. And that's why, guys, let's say in the financial sector, Dave Ramsey, for example, he'll always say, start with a small debt so that you get the small win in your life. So imagine sin as a debt. Imagine sin as an issue in your life. And maybe look at your smaller bad habits and just tackle that with a vengeance. Know that you can tackle that. It's like, I'm going to get my screen time down 5 minutes a day. Or I'm going to get my, whatever, right? Or I'm going to look twice instead of 3 times, and just tackle that with a vengeance. And you'll get that small win. You'll see that one bit of encouragement, that one bit of feedback, and obviously get the mentor, do the little things well, and grow. And over time, that's my best advice with issues in my life, is start with the small stuff.
Yep.
And
yep. Hey, Navidium, I got a question for you. I saw your response. That, you definitely got an issue. Not judging you, but got a question. Is there a history of abuse in your family? I mean, it's a serious, and if it's something you don't feel comfortable with answering, that's fine too.
You always ping me in the Discord too.
Yeah, you can always ping Alan in the Discord. But is there a history of molestation or that kind of thing? And
Because you gotta ask yourself why you'll go to look at that.
Exactly.
Because like you're coping for something that is either there too much or isn't there enough.
Okay. Okay. No,
And
I was just checking because I know from experience dealing with folks who either their kids got molested or uh, their kids got molested or they were abused.
it
That
might just be a plain old.
that hypersexualism can happen. I mean, it's just a fact when you're introduced to stuff at a young age.
And it might just be a plain old addiction.
Yeah, and it can be, but
Like it's its own issue.
but it's trying to get to the root of, hey, let's so then it just starts with prayer and like I said, when you every time when you think you're about ready to do that act, stop and pray and say, God, I need you to take this.
One thing
I
I'll
know
do
this
if
isn't
I'm
right.
like, let's say you like playing video games with friends and you get off call. Like one thing I always did if I was about to look up my phone is I have a good phone case. I would literally take my phone and just like throw it on the floor every time. So that way, like before I start working, let's say you have homework to do, just throw your phone on the floor so it's in the middle of the room so that you know that I would really stoop on the floor and get on my knees to pick this up just to do that. It's just like a dumb little thing I figured out. Like I just throw my phone on the floor and I'm like, it's gonna stay there till morning or whatever.
And again, that's a little tool that can help.
But
I want to believe in God, but there's nothing for me to know it's real. Well, Daniel, we can't even say for sure that we're even having a conversation. You could just be dreaming this right now. That's where faith comes in. It take, in my personal opinion, it takes a lot more to believe that there is no God than there is a God. Um, and
here, I'm gonna type out the name of a resource that really helped me. That should be free on YouTube. It's a documentary. It's like 2 hours long, but they literally break down different sections of science
if
in the
you
world. This is
if you look at okay, everybody knows that like Homer's Iliad is was written by Homer, right? I mean, you're this age group, you may not know. There's actually, I think the last count is it's almost 2,600 Greek texts that talk that of the Bible that are out there, way more than Homer. But yet you believe Homer existed, just like you believe Napoleon fought the Battle of Waterloo. You know, so to me, it takes a lot more faith to believe out of nothing came something that's going to end in nothing than to believe the creator created something and created something, and then as long as you believe, then it's eternal life. That's the promise, because we're not perfect, and we know we're not perfect, and God is perfect, and so He had to find a way to reconcile, and that's why He sent Jesus to redeem man.
Daniel, one little prayer. Oh, it's a big prayer that I sometimes when I I haven't really doubted God's character for maybe 2 years, but when I was first saved, I would sometimes, I'd hear something online, I'd be like, maybe evolution is real, whatever. And I would just sit there at night and ask God, I dare you to show yourself to me. And it's in the little things. You'll see, like, there's a camp song we used to sing, like, God's fingerprints are everywhere, just to show how much He cares. Like I just like you say you've tried praying, like just ask God once, just like, where are you? How do I know you're real? Because like some people it's a science issue, some people it's an emotional issue, some people they have an issue with their dad. Like what's a thing that would, there might be the logical issue you have in front of something, but what's the maybe the emotional thing behind it where it's like, I can't believe a God because of blank, you know? Because like that might be like the heart of it.
And well, you're Daniel, you're asking me to prove God. I can't prove God. Nobody can prove God. I mean, I will tell you the Bible proves God. They're His words, but nobody can literally prove that He existed. But nobody can prove that He didn't exist either. Um, so, just like I said earlier, you cannot prove that this conversation is actually taking place. This could be a dream, and we're all experiencing on a subconscious level, right? There's no, you can't scientifically prove that God can exist. Now I can look at through His creation and go, wow, the chance of all this random stuff happening, I mean, it's astronomical. I mean, when you break down, you know, if you get into the science side, if you get into the science side, a simple cell, uh, scientists have created a cell. They're no closer to creating a cell than they were 100 years ago. It's it's so complex. The complexity, it points to a designer. I can give you evidence that
Like the
he
most
can
complex,
exist.
the most complex factories in the world. So like cells are basically factories, right?
Yeah,
They go back and forth, and they read information, and the information itself isn't part of the moving factory.
well,
And it's crazy. Imagine the most complex human factory in the world, and that's like your most simple bacterium.
and when you think about it from a design, our DNA, our DNA is, scientists have pretty much said it's code. It's literally code.
4D code.
4D code. Think about that. You know, but scientists can't even get close to creating life from nothing. And that's the key, from nothing. They can take a cell, they can pull out the genetic material and then insert new genetic material, but they didn't create anything. The amino acids required, you know, and this is why I say it takes a lot more to be an atheist than it does to be a believer in God, because you're telling me that everything came together in these perfect, basically on the evolution side thing, this perfect primordial suit that then got struck by lightning and everything did it. Well, if it's that easy, then why haven't scientists in a pure lab format been able to build a cell?
Billions of years, but statistically, you would need trillions of years.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely crazy. When
Like, how could random like if the guys like Elon Musk or like all the top intelligences in the world have not been able to recreate a cell without first referencing or taking pieces of other cells, like literally re-engineering something. Like everything from human invention can be found about like an electric motor. That's the tail of a bacterium. Is an electric motor. Like, let me look up. Should I look up the picture of it?
Yeah, I mean, you can look. Like I said, I look in nature and I'm like, there's no way this stuff is random. Just there's no way. It takes the design. Everything has a purpose. How do you want them to build a cell? Well, they can't.
Like if intelligent people can't makes them like. Let me pull this up.
It points to intelligent design because of
Look at this, guys. Let me point this. So this is the tail of a bacteria. Okay, and this, like you literally have. And then if I look up, how does an electric motor work? Right. So if I go to images, you see this? So it's like you have your copper and you have your magnet and the thing that spins around. And at the microscopic level, they have the exact same thing. Yep. And then this is how they spin around like this. And scientists have watched them. So imagine a car that could go 60 miles an hour and without stopping, without drifting, without turning at all, could go straight 90 degrees, no momentum at all, straight to the right. Bacteriophages can do that using this. Oh, is it not showing? It's right here. So here's this, and then here's an electric motor, right? So like you see this, and then very similar. But this is how proteins, this is how carbon,
proteins and amino acids,
like the same stuff you burn your grill, coal.
But honestly, I'll be quite honest. I'm not here to convince you, Daniel. I'm not here to convince you that God exists. That's not my purpose. I mean, I believe God exists, but I am here to talk issues like Navidium. Hey, how do we help you? The other thing you may, Navidium, you may do is you may, if you're not comfortable talking to your dad about your issue, is, say, Dad, I really need to talk to a counselor. I got some stuff going on that if you're not comfortable talking to them about, and then talk to your counselor, and then they will hook you up with the sources and resources. And I have known high-ranking people in the military, so I want you to know that I want you to know I've talked to colonels and chief master sergeants that have the same that have had the same issues as you have. So you're not alone out there. You're not the only one suffering through that. The question is, how do you get yourself help to get you the tools? There's the God. There's definitely God, but it does not hurt to talk to just a neutral party and just be able to tell them, hey,
getting it off your chest.
Getting it off your chest is really half the battle.
Like typing here is not getting it off your chest, but like talking to another person, hopefully a good man, is getting it off your life.
I don't know whether male or female. Did Navidium say whether they're male or female? I didn't.
I assume.
I don't know, but
he's from my Minecraft audience.
Okay. Okay. Well, but it is talking. It is just literally talking about it, and because you're basically getting a dopamine hit off of
female. See, my bad.
Okay, yeah, and that's why we don't assume, right?
Yep. See, he's a smart one. That's why he's doing most of the talking. But sorry.
It's okay. It's okay to talk. It's okay to talk to a counselor. If you have a school counselor, go in and talk to them and say, "Hey, I am really struggling with this. Is there resources out there?" Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. That's an expression I use. But prayer helps. Belief in God helps. Read Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, Daniel. Those are the five. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I would tell you to read, and then you gotta look at the other religions if you're struggling even with religion, and you compare them, and that's what you make your decision off of.
Here's a thought I have for you. When you look at like the chaotic Greek gods who can't even figure out how to like stay married or how to control themselves or get along or whatever the basic things,
Yep.
they are not smart enough to code DNA. But you look at the God of order in the Bible, you look at the God of, or like the millions of Hindu gods, how could they all get along long enough to create a functional universe? It doesn't work. Only a creative God who is about justice, order, and equity could build this universe. So it's just comparing the deities themselves, and that's at least a thought I have for you. Is how they think.
Yep, and it's really amazing if you get into astrophysics, which, trust me, I am not a physics expert, but I like watching the different astrophysics guys on YouTube. It just fascinates me when they talk about how fine-tuned our little spot in the universe is, and if we were anywhere else than where we were, life would not exist. It's just so incredibly fine-tuned. All the conditions, everything to make life happen on Earth is so incredibly fine-tuned. And what they're finding out about all these other planets, and there's tons of them, you know, they have yet to find one that is anywhere remotely habitable as Earth is. They've got some close ones, but nothing even remotely close. Everything usually ends up being too hot, too cold, not the right atmosphere. You know, they have not found, the last time I checked, which has been only about a month ago, they found some that are promising, but they were waiting on more details, but they haven't found anything that comes close to supporting Earth. They're either too big, too small. You know, it'd be an Earth about 7 or 8 or 9 times the size of our Earth, which means gravity would crush us as soon as we step foot on it. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing when you look at the fine tine. You know, scientists say, some scientists say, oh, there's no God, you know.
Let's read a verse about a man who also questioned God named Job.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
So, Job 38. So, Job, imagine a loyal servant of God who is a farmer, has a big family, and is very wealthy. And Satan walks up to God in the beginning of the story and says, I'm going to prove to you that your servant isn't loyal. Let me test Job. So basically, that means that God gave Satan permission to wreak havoc, and it's just Job and his wife left. His kids are dead. Everything he loved and cared about on this earth, besides his relationship with God, gone. So he's questioning God a little bit, but he's still remaining loyal, right? Because God, you know, he believes in a good God. But so here's my point. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. All right, get rid of those ads. So then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens the counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man, and I will question you. Some other versions say like, gird up your loins or man up, right? And I will question you, and you will make it known to me. So God is saying to Job, like not Job to God, he's saying, man up and listen. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. So God is like almost mocking Job a little bit. He's like, surely you know. Or stretched the line upon it. And what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together? With all the sons of God shall rejoice, or the angels. Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment, and the thick darkness its swallowing man, prescribes limit to it. It set the bars and doors. So this is to the ocean. It said, thus shall you come, and no further. And here shall your proud ways be saved. So this is like him separating land from ocean, like with his bare hands. God is doing this, right? And it's just like, he just goes on and on. Have you commanded morning since your days be gone, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it. It changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment from the wicked. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Like God just goes on and on, saying like, have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of hail, which I reserved for you, or which I reserved for time of trouble, for day of battle and war? What is the time and place where light is distributed, or where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Scientists still like, there's a saying that like, where's the wind come from? You'll never know. Like God is basically saying that. Like, Job, have you seen this? You question me. And it just goes on and on. Can you bind the chain of Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? And he's saying, can you move the stars? Yeah. God can move the stars. Do you know the ordinances of heaven? And can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of young lions when they crouch in their dens, or lie in wait for the thicket? Like, who provides the raven its prey when the young ones cry out to God for help? So God even notices the little birds, right? And that God just goes on and on, just saying, right here, 38:3, gird up your loins like a man, and it's just, yeah. It's just like, my point there is, God is saying like, I did all this stuff, and it's just an interesting verse. What do you think about that, Mr. Buffer?
Jess was asking, is it wrong to question God? No, that right there just absolutely answers it right there. Job questioned. Everybody questions at some point. It's when you decide that, God wants a relationship with us. But if you push him away, he will step back from you. I guarantee you. I can tell you it doesn't mean he abandons you by any means. I can look back throughout my life now, and I can look at all the times through all the troubles where God sent me a very Christian man to help me, and I denied the help.
Yeah. And just show one thing I've learned, this is a say I've kind of made up over time, is don't ask God why, ask him how. Because when you question the character of God, it's easy to push him away. But when you trust God and say, God, I'm ready to wait, but I will ask how, but I need your help now. I've seen that work a lot in my own life. And I've had a pretty interesting year, right? And you've seen how God's been faithful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Story after story.
Absolutely. Navidium,
what happens if the 1 week trick doesn't work, he's asking?
Yeah, that's what well, it's going to be one of those, you cross that bridge when you get there. The question you got to ask yourself constantly is, am I doing better than I did in the past?
This is like pushing a boulder up a hill and you can't see, and then eventually you're gonna get to the top of the hill and you're gonna watch it like all unravel and just roll down. Like, that's an example I heard of hard things. So it's like, you gotta push it up, and then eventually it will roll down. Like, you don't know when your battle will be over. This might take 2 years. This might take a week.
Yeah, it just,
God's measure of grace is different and unique to our own situation, to the story he's writing for us.
Exactly.
So
100%. It is 100%. To each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Snow and its tundra, and now I haven't been drunk for 2 years or so. That's amazing.
Oh, he's talking about soda. I think.
Yeah, he hasn't drunk it in 2 years now.
Which caffeine, some people think it's a drug. So,
well, yeah, I mean, either one, alcohol or too much soda, either one will destroy your body. Either one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
One will attack your liver, the other one will give you diabetes, and then what is it that
it's a dye, the high sugar and caffeine amounts that gotta.
Yeah, but yeah, too much sugar. Everything in moderation. Yeah, we don't, Daniel. We don't have to.
I said I just throw my phone before. Like I just literally throw it in the middle of the room, and
Or give it to somebody you trust to
yeah.
hold, especially if you know you're struggling. You know.
Like there was a time a few months ago I just could not get off my phone. I didn't want to do anything but be on my phone, and I finally said I meet with a guy named Dave, a godly missionary. He served in Africa for 20 years translating the Bible. Exceptional man because he exceptionally depended on God. And I said, Dave, like I won't make any real progress or meet any goals or see any more God's work in my life until I give more time to him. So I'm going to give you my phone. And I did. And then he kept it for a week. And I sent him an email. All right, Dave, can we meet at Panera again? And the next Thursday I got back. It was a quiet, hard, but peaceful week. And it taught me a lot and helped set up the stage mentally for me to get off my phone permanently. So just understand the bigger the addiction, the bigger the battle. But battles are one. A war is one with a series of battles.
Yes.
So just the daily battle, you know,
And the daily prayer.
because we can give you all these tips and tricks, and I'm sure you've heard all those, but it's really down to
You got to put it into practice.
you got to decide to do it, and you got to put it into practice, and you have to go, depend on the Lord with it. But yeah, I think that's a good first step is not being on your phone. So
Absolutely, and like I said, uh, I really,
I agree with that one, Daniel. Don't be alone. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yep. Um,
It's just like the saying, you can't spend money while you're at work, like that kind of thing. Like you're not going to look up pornography when you're with other people. So
Not if you want to keep your job.
yeah,
So, Navidium, do you have a job? I'm just asking a question. Oh, you're 15. Okay. Um, okay. I'm trying to figure out. I'm just trying to think on this one as far as
I tell you what, I was 15 when I got a job, and it helped me. Jobs just teach you how to be dependable to someone else in a different way.
dependable and disciplined.
Yeah. So, which like is kind of foundational to anything else.
Yeah, but
But obviously, labor laws.
yeah, labor laws. You're probably going to get, depending on where you're
You
from.
get like 5 hours at Chick-fil-A a week. But
Oh, your dad won't let you get one.
well,
Are you? Is your Are your parents together? Nvidium. No. Do you have communication with your mom at all? So yeah, that kind of puts you in a. Do you have a good friend? I mean, like a ride or die friend, somebody you 100% trust. We do, and we do appreciate you sharing what you shared.
couple of friends like that. That's good. So 2 or 3, essentially.
Are they people that, no kidding, you trust? Because if they're not, I, I, you don't want to compound the problem. If you completely trust them, then you just need to tell them, "Hey, I'm struggling with an issue," and you don't necessarily have to get into specifics of what the issue is, but hey, I'm struggling to overcome this.
You can literally say, "I'm on my phone too much. Here's my phone."
Yeah, I'm on my phone. Yeah, you can keep it generic. I'm on my phone too much, but
I've in high school social issues, and
but but um, if 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 you feel comfortable, you just say, "I'm on my phone too much. I feel like I got to be on my phone, you know, all the time," and and
and then that might help them.
and it might go, "Well, hey, I struggle with this too," which then may open up to a general conversation where you're able to get more specific, or maybe you're not, and that's fine if you're not comfortable. If you're just talking about the general, man, I'm just on the internet too much. How do I overcome this? I feel like it's controlling my life, versus my life, uh, instead of me controlling my life. And hey, have you had any similar struggles, like that? And how are they able to overcome? You know. Yeah, I get it. You wouldn't be able to tell your dad that issue. That's 100% understandable. Um, but uh, yeah, we'll definitely pray for you on that. It's just very much. Oh, oh, oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, well, okay. So your friends are okay. The friend you can trust is a boy. Yeah, that probably would not be a good thing to be discussing with a boy.
No,
I can 100% say for sure that would be.
especially if he's a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah, especially if he's a 16-year-old boy, because
Yeah.
that's temptation leading to temptation. That
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah, he's 16. Yeah, yeah. So if you start telling intimate details about that he's 16. I know how I was with 16, so um,
Yeah, and I was
it's just something. It's just something I wouldn't recommend. Um, I would recommend talking to a counselor if you can.
Let me just describe this. There's only one thing on most guys' minds when they're that age,
Yeah.
and it's probably about you.
Yeah.
So don't. Yeah,
So I would tell you, you know,
I would find someone who knows. Yeah, if your friends are gonna go leak the info, you
yeah.
know, like I'll be honest, I had one friend in high school, but I spent most of my time working and being around people who were more than me because I realized at a young age that it was.
Oh, the counselor would probably tell. Uh,
That's an interesting issue.
yeah.
Do you go to church? Because if you go to church, there might be a youth pastor who deals with this stuff all the time,
Yeah.
or a pastor, or. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, we got both get close to our mics.
Yeah, you get tired of leaning forward, so then you what does that say?
Yeah, so if you go to a church, like a good church that has at least one solid person, then like you could talk to that person who doesn't even know your parents, or where you go to youth group, or like just pull them aside. Hey, can we go to coffee? I have something I need to talk to you about, and that's the job of the church staff.
and you don't
Bingo.
and you don't have to get into the details of it. Just say, hey, I'm having technology addiction issues. You know,
Yep.
make sure, I'm one of these guys, trust but verify, um, type type individual, meaning, yeah, I'm gonna, if it's somebody that I have never approached before with a sensitive subject like this,
Especially if it's your first time.
I would not overshare right away.
Especially if it's your first time sharing anything sensitive with anybody, just like be as vague as until like you know.
And yeah, you should be able to figure out fairly soon whether they're trustworthy. You know,
And how do those conversations go with him? He's a good guy. So good youth pastor.
good. So you've talked to him about the family issues, but not that particular issue.
So that might be your person, but we obviously don't have a lot of context on your end.
Yeah,
Just a few,
I don't.
chats. And we're also not therapists, so
Yep,
like
we're
take
not.
our opinions lightly.
Yep, we're not therapists. I don't claim to be a therapist, but it's uh, okay. You've talked to him about mom and dad splitting. Wow, that's tough. But I'm glad. I'm glad the youth pastor was there for you. Um, but yeah, I would just say you feel you're addicted to technology, and um, see if they can hook you up with resources to get you off the technology addiction. And it may be a gradual process, you know. But if you can count on them, like I said, I keep it general at first, and then uh, if if it stay if it stays between you and him, then or her, whichever one it is, then uh, it's, that's the key, because it's not a pleasant issue to deal with by any means. I grew more comfortable talking about my drinking, uh, my crappy treatment of my wife. Um, the more I talked about it, I didn't just automatically come up and go, "Oh, I was a raging alcoholic." You know, I just got tired of the money going out the door and me being hungover 7 days, 6, 7 days a week. That I finally had enough, and I just submitted to God's will. And you know,
So let you know if it's about a 10-second delay. Oh yeah, I probably didn't put the right setting on, but
okay, but yeah, that would be my thoughts. You know, um, and then hopefully you get the tools you need that you conquer the addiction, and that's what we pray.
I have a really cool story to tell.
And then you have a really cool story to tell, and then this is how I've found it works for me. Whatever my struggle is, whatever I conquer, um, it uh, with I found that it helped me help other people, kind of like why we're here. It just helped me. It just helped me help other people. So, well, Navidium, I'm glad.
See
I'm
that just like saying that you think you can is
Yep,
the first step.
is
Like
the first step.
if you say I can't do this, then you'll never even try. So just saying like I can, change that to an I will. Like,
Yeah,
and you're gonna get there.
I will. I will beat this with the help of God. I'll beat it. But I think you're on the. Oh, I'm not a counselor. I just I've just lived a lot of life.
It's a podcast, but
I've just like I said, I've lived a lot of life, and uh, hey, I I know what it's like to have an addiction issue. It absolutely sucks, and you think you're not worthy, and but you are. That's it's the devil that makes you think you're not worthy,
yeah,
but you are, and yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. And that's why we want to do this, where we can have real conversations of, hey, I get it's tough, you know.
see, there you go, 50% better.
There you go, and hopefully it gets to 100%. Um, because yeah, it's well, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay not to be perfect. We can't be. I mean, it's literally impossible to be not be perfect. Um, but are you trying to make it better? And from the sounds of it, you are. And you yourself said you've made progress, and that's something you should be proud of yourself for. You know, that's why it's always good to reflect every day. Hey guys, I mean, if you think about it, a reflection every day. What did I do good? Because I always start out with the positive.
And remember that self-image you have of yourself is probably either too high up or too far down. So I always ask, like, again, after a year of trying, you'll find a network of friends. It happens, but it takes time. And
Yep.
I ask those friends every time I'm like, what do I talk about a lot on the call? Was I talking about me? Was I talking about God? And they're like, well, today you talked about yourself a lot and about this, that, whatever. So I was like, okay, so I need to work on thinking about God more in the next week. Or just I tried to ask trusted people, like, what did I talk about? Or what am I doing good or what am I doing bad? Just to get a fresh perspective of me from other people's eyes. But I also pray that too.
Yep.
And
But you
that
also
told me
need to
that helps.
reflect on your day. Hey, what did I do? Hey, there's some things that you do amazing every single day. Everybody is good at something.
Yep.
And so you look at what you did bad at good, and then you look at, you know, okay, where did I not do so good? Okay, where did I fail? Okay. And then you do a self-assessment every well, I appreciate you opening up. Um
Yeah, I'll be sure to blur your name in the final edit.
yeah.
But I mean, this live stream will stay up, but um, we'll definitely be praying for you. And
But take the time to reflect. Um and I'm sure that was pretty hard. I'm sure that was pretty hard for you to open up. But man, I got three beautiful grandbabies, and I want to set I want to set them up for success. I've got two beautiful children, and I want to set them up for uh,
I'm just saying the YouTube video does well. I don't want your name to, or that, a lot of people to see, unless you don't mind.
yeah. If you don't mind, that's fine. But if you do mind,
If you want us to like blur the name in the chat so that like, well, so the world doesn't know that you're dealing with this, then because this is public stuff. So like, I'm just trying to, yeah. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that.
because this live stream will get buried pretty quick, and it's our first one, so most people won't see it. But like the public videos, those might get a little more. So that's why in the editing we'll definitely cover that up. So
But you should be proud of yourself just for the simple fact that you opened up,
yeah,
and that you said, "Hey, I have this issue," and because that's what this is about.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's a you know eventually hopefully by the grace of God, eventually you will get to a place that you will get to a place where, you know, uh, where you get to that place where you go, hey, I don't have shame here. I have an issue, but there's no shame there. I'm trying to deal with the issue, and that's the problem in today's society as a whole is social media posts. Everybody has this great life. Well, you could go look through my social media, and I got the greatest life, and I can tell you it has been, yeah. Everybody posts how their life is so great, and that's one of the issues we have is that we're not having real conversations. You know, we're not having those real conversations, and it creates that stigma. So, well, I am going to tell you it. Here in Iowa, it's almost 10 o'clock, and I got an hour drive home. And
I thought it was like 40 minutes.
Well, it's 45, but
With the weather, though, sometimes.
But with the weather, who knows? But I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who came on, and this is what we want to do. We want to talk real life issues. Try to hook you. Try to hook you up with resources, or just try to get you in a good perspective that it is not the end of the world. We all have issues. We absolutely all have issues. Nobody's perfect.
Hey, Daniel's still in.
So, Alan, how about you lead us with a prayer, and we're going to close this out, and let's pray for Navidium on the feed.
All right. Yep, we'll pray, guys, and we'll close it up. So we've had 44 viewers at a 20-minute view duration. That's crazy, guys. So thank you all for watching for so long and giving us your time. We do appreciate it. Listening to us, and hopefully, biggest thing I'll pray for is that God helps you remember what you need to hear and forget what we said that you don't need to hear. So, all right. I'll bow our heads, fold our hands, and let's pray. Dear Father God, thank you for this great first live stream, Lord, and for hearts being open, Lord, to the reality of sin in our life. And Lord, I do thank you that Navidium had the heart to open up tonight, and I pray that you help her to get over this issue that is very common to man. And what man has done, man can do again. And many people have conquered this with your help, Lord. Many that I know. And this is a pivotal moment, Lord. Because a life led with this not figured out would be very sad. But a life led with this figured out would be a great story and a great movement in your kingdom, Lord. So please, let it be conquered. And I pray for Daniel, Lord, as he's searching, that you help him to find what he's looking for, and hopefully that becomes you, the God of the Bible, the everlasting and loving Father who cares for us and sent his own Son to die for us. And just pray that you give it, I'm a him, not a her. Oh, you said the counselor was a female. Got it. So he's a him.
Oh,
so my bad, Navidium. I was like super confused. So sorry. Well, now I know. So, God, thank you for just everything you've given. The little ways you provide, and you've given me the eyes to see you providing, Lord. Just like Elijah said, Lord, open his eyes that he may see, and you revealed just the army of giants in that one story. Somewhere in the Old Testament, Lord, that I always just found interesting. I pray that you open up their eyes to see you in every part of their life. Thank you to Mr. Puffer for challenging me day in, day out to do this podcast, even though I didn't want to right away. And Lord, thank you so much for opening up all the hearts that need to make this happen, Lord. And this is just the first live stream. I pray that big things happen, and that you keep us humble, and that anything that happens on this channel will be done for you. And I pray for this audience, Lord, as they've been so loyal on the Craftsies channel. And just thank you for that, and I pray that you would just open up their hearts and minds to really think about things that matter before, like I heard a saying the other day, like all the devil wants is just to feed us, keep us busy until we die, and with bread and circus, Lord, I just pray that you don't let that happen to us. And anyone that hears our words, Lord, I pray that they can be touched by your spirit and open up their eyes to you. So, amen means let it be. Let it be, oh God. So, all right, I'm going to hit the stop stream button.
But you guys didn't know I was bald.
Yeah. So.
Okay, y'all have a good night.
But yeah, the video, if you trust your buddy and he's a male and you're a male, then go for it. If not,
Hit the counselor up.
hit the counselor up, your youth pastor. So
Have a good night.
good luck. I'm on the Discord if you need help. Goodbye.